For the last several weeks, I've been watching a fascinating story unfold, not only in the financial markets, but in the global news markets. And I think it's a story about the most shameless scapegoating I think I've ever seen. Hi, I'm Teri, and you're watching the Modest Economist channel. The person I'm talking about is Liz Truss. Liz became the third female Prime Minister of the UK on September 6th. And let me give you a little context about September 6th and what happened. So Boris Johnson has to resign, and he has to go to Scotland along with Liz to meet with the Queen. He hands in his official resignation, and the Queen officially appoints Liz Truss as the new Prime Minister. Of course, they go back to London, and very sadly, within 48 hours, the Queen passes away. So, following protocol, there are 10 days of processions, and services. And so that's really the first 2 weeks of her time in office. About 5 days after that 10-day period of mourning, her new Chancellor of the Exchequer presents the budget. And all I can say is, oh my God, you would have thought the world was coming to an end. So the budget is presented, and all of a sudden, the value of pound sterling relative to the dollar plummets, in the words of the press. The pension plans in the UK are facing liquidation, or they're starting to liquidate. And the Bank of England steps in to clean up the mess that Liz has made in less than 3 weeks as Prime Minister. So as this is unfolding, I'm thinking, wait a minute, what world leader is in office for 3 weeks and can cause the collapse of the currency, the collapse of the pension funds, and according to some, the collapse of the entire economy? How is that even possible? They've either just said she is the most powerful person on the planet to be able to cause that kind of chaos, or I think the message that's being sent to the global world and global investors is just how fragile the UK economy really is. So, unfortunately, her Chancellor of the Exchequer is fired, followed by her secretary resigning, followed by Liz resigning less than 44 days as Prime Minister. Now, I think this is very, very unfortunate. One thing that I thought about is that when somebody comes into a position, either as a president or a prime minister, as a leader of a country, they are inheriting the economy as it is on that day. And on September 6th, the UK economy was fragile. The pound had been increasingly devaluing, really, since Brexit and Boris Johnson in 2019. So that was not really as sudden as it was made out to be. That day there was a drop, but it's come back. Overall though, if you look at this year and the last 3 years, the pound has been in a slow decline. Their economy now has over 10% inflation, and I'm reading that some expect that inflation rate to go to 13% by the end of the year. Their unemployment rate, like the US, is low, and their growth rate is fairly low. So once the Chancellor of the Exchequer presented the budget and everything started to fall apart, I decided before speaking about this that I really should read the budget and see what was in it. I was really curious to know what was in that budget that would cause this kind of financial chaos. So I read it, and it was interesting. I think for those of us who've actually taken an economics class, you would be surprised if you read it that their starting point and their platform was growth. Now, in most economies, when you're experiencing the kind of inflation that you have and low unemployment, out of the box, it doesn't seem like growth is really the best strategy, simply because growth is what you use to stimulate the economy, and usually what follows is inflation. So I think that the budget that they put together, although it was presented with a lot of energy, as I continued to read through it, was just too much. And it consisted of too many changes all at once in a period where the country is going through a massive change and a massive economic crisis. So blame it on Liz. It's all her fault. In a way, I'm actually glad that she resigned, because she's probably thinking, you know, the people around me are so myopic and so bent on making me look like the person who caused all this. Let them try to figure it out, because I'm not going to get anywhere with this. But now that she has resigned, it means that the UK will have a new prime minister, probably by the time you're watching this, for the third time in 2 months. Who is that person going to be? Well, I find it very interesting that one of the people who has stepped up to the plate and said, I want to be prime minister, is Boris Johnson. Yes, that's right. He is making a bid to become the prime minister again after he just resigned 44 days ago under a cloud of scandal. So in terms of the economy, I think that there won't be anybody else to blame. A lot of the blame for the economy should have been put on Boris, in my opinion. But I think that the economy in the UK is going to struggle for a lot of reasons. And one of those reasons is that you now have a parliament and 2 houses that can't seem to get out of their own way. And I think for Liz, it was like trying to catch a falling knife, as we say. There was just no good outcome for this. So that's the story that I've been following. I think it's a fascinating point in history, but we have to remember that when somebody does become a leader, they have inherited that economy. And so to me, it is absolutely impossible that somebody who's been in office for 3 weeks could destroy the entire economy. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I have a lot of articles, and I'll be writing more about this as the story continues to unfold. Of course, I'm just as curious as everybody else to see who actually does become the new prime minister. But you can read my articles and see my videos on my website, themodesteconomist.com. Thank you for joining me today.